Today, we're going to dive into a conflict that truly changed everything for New Zealand. It's a really powerful story about war, about law, and ultimately a struggle over land and identity that shaped the nation we see today.
Okay, so what you're looking at here, this quote, it's about a stream, the Māngatawi River. Now, for Waikato Māori, this wasn't just any river. It was an aukati, a boundary line you did not cross. So, in July 1863, when British troops marched right over it, well, that wasn't just trespassing, that was a declaration of war. It was the start of the Waikato invasion.
But here's the thing. This was about so much more than just a piece of land or a riverbank. This was a battle between two totally different ideas for what New Zealand should be. And really, only one of them could win.
So on one side, you had the Kiingitanga, the Māori king movement. They were pushing for unity, for partnership, for the right to manage their own lives and land, which is exactly what they believed the Treaty of Waitangi promised them. And on the other side, you had the colonial government, and they had a very different idea. For them, it was all about crown dominance. They expected to be in absolute control, period. You can just feel it, right? These two visions were on a total collision course.
Now, the invasion itself was pretty swift, but the Crown's strategy wasn't just about winning on the battlefield. No, they put a law in place almost immediately to make seizing the land not just permanent, but to make it seem totally legal.
So let's talk about this law, the New Zealand Settlements Act of 1863. I mean, listen to the language they used. It was all framed as being for permanent protection and security. But what did it actually do? It gave the government the power to confiscate millions of acres from any tribe they simply decided was in rebellion.
And the process itself was just devastatingly effective. It was a simple four-step plan. First, you declare a district. Step 2, you seize all the land inside it. It didn't matter if people were loyal to the crown or not, you just took it all. Third, you give plots of that land to military settlers to hold the new territory. And fourth, you sell off whatever's left. And here's the absolute kicker. The money from those sales was used to pay for the war. The Tanui tribes were literally forced to pay for their own invasion.
So as you can imagine, the result of this law wasn't peace or security at all. It was the complete and utter destruction of a people, their culture, and their economy. The scale of it is just staggering.
Just look at that number, 1.2 million acres. That's how much land was confiscated from the Waikato Tainui iwi alone. An absolutely enormous territory, the very heartland of their people, just taken, gone with a stroke of a pen.
And the human cost. I mean, it was catastrophic. This wasn't just about losing some land. We're talking about entire villages being burned to the ground. A prosperous farming economy, just destroyed practically overnight. You had people who were self-sufficient one day, and the next they were landless, poor, and forced into exile in their own country. Their whole way of life was just shattered.
But the story definitely doesn't end there. The fight just got passed down from one generation to the next. And in the early 20th century, a truly formidable new leader emerged to pick up that torch of resistance, Te Puea Hērangi, the granddaughter of the second Māori king.
So flash forward to World War I. The government brings in conscription, forcing people to fight, and this split Māori leadership right down the middle. You had leaders like Dr. Maui Pomari who argued, look, Māori should fight for the empire, it'll prove we deserve full citizenship. But Te Puea, she saw it completely differently. For her, those land confiscations were still a deep open wound.
And her response just cuts right to the bone. She famously said, "They tell us to fight for king and country. We've got a king, but we haven't got a country." Wow. In just one sentence, she connects the demand for loyalty in 1917 all the way back to the injustice of 1863. The land was still the issue.
And she didn't just talk, she acted. She set up a refuge for all the Waikato men who refused to be conscripted, and she led this powerful campaign of passive resistance. She told her people not to fight, and she stared down the government, even when they called her a traitor. She became the absolute center of the struggle.
But Te Puea's vision was bigger than just resistance. She knew her people needed more than defiance. To truly recover, they had to rebuild. They needed a symbol of their survival and a foundation to build their future on.
And that foundation became Turangawaewi. The name literally means a place to stand. Now just think about that. For a people who had been made landless, the power in that idea is just immense. This was going to be the new heart of the Kīngitanga movement, a physical and a spiritual home to restore their dignity, their mana, and their hope.
So, starting in 1921, Te Puea led her people as they cleared scrub and drained swampland. It took years of fundraising and backbreaking work, but they built this magnificent marae complex, including the official home for the Maori monarch. It was an incredible achievement, a true testament to her vision and her people's unbelievable resilience.
And they would need that resilience for decades more, because the final chapter in this part of the story wouldn't be written until the very end of the 20th century. It would come in the form of an historic and very, very long overdue settlement.
Think about this timeline. From the invasion in 1863, through an initial small compensation deal that Te Puea accepted in 1946, it took all the way until 1995, more than 130 years, for a final settlement to actually be reached. This was a marathon fight for justice, spanning multiple generations.
The final settlement was for $170 million. Now let's be clear, that was just a tiny fraction of what the land was actually worth. But this was never just about the money. The real value was in the words that came with it.
And this was the breakthrough. For the first time ever, the Crown formally apologized. It acknowledged its actions were unjust. It admitted it was a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi. And, this is so crucial, it admitted to unfairly labeling Waikato as rebels. After 132 years, the Crown finally, officially, said that the entire reason for the war, the entire premise for confiscating the land, was wrong.
So this settlement, it really wasn't an ending. It was a beginning, a huge turning point in the relationship between Māori and the Crown. And it leaves us with a really important question to think about. When a nation finally confronts a great wrong like this and apologizes, what happens next? What does it really take to heal and to move forward together?